Now let's look at how warranties work in practice. Let's say we have a contract between a photographer who's just published his own book and a large international bookstore. The photographer's book is about the history of Paris and contains many great photos of the city. He has 1,000 copies of the book to sell, and the bookstore is very interested. Now, whenever a business buys something, in this case, the bookstore, it takes quite a few risks. Think about the risks the buyer's taking here. The first risk is that the seller may not actually be the legal owner of the books. It may sound obvious, but the first warranty the potential buyer should ask for is a statement that the seller has title to the goods being sold. Title to something means ownership of it, and this is a standard warranty for a buyer to ask for in contracts for the sale of goods. Without it, the bookstore risks paying for the goods and then ultimately not owning them. One of the other risks is that there's clearly an element of intellectual property law involved in this situation. This is a book of photographs. They're classed as a creative work and therefore subject to copyright. An obvious question then is, were all of the photographs in the book taken by the seller? Because if not, someone, somewhere, could have copyright in some of them. This is the time, before the contract is signed, for the buyer to ask the seller for certain warranties. With this in mind, the bookstore should ask the photographer to warrant that he either holds copyright in the photos or that he has a license from the copyright holder to use them for this purpose. Imagine the difference in risk in the following two situations. Situation 1. The photographer warrants that he took all of the photographs contained in the book and has copyright in every single one of them. Or, situation 2, the seller warrants that he took most of the photographs in the book, but that it contains 3 historical photographs of Paris that are not his. He also discloses that despite his best efforts, he hasn't been able to find the copyright holder in those 3 photographs. Following disclosure, the buyer has a decision to make. Would you sign the contract to buy those books in situation 2? Would you risk becoming involved in a copyright dispute with a third party at some time in the future? Maybe, maybe not. But this is the whole purpose of warranties, to get as much information as possible so that you can make an informed decision before buying and at least assess what kind of risk you may be taking when entering into a contract. Whatever you do, don't buy unforeseen problems.